Well, if it's 5 o'clock somewhere,
It must be ScoBuff Sports Live.
I'm Lila Nuttall.
And I'm Lincoln Rock. We began last Friday where the women's basketball team's Big 12 tournament run ended shortly after our last show. Our ScoBuffs crew out in Kansas City has the recap on the Buffs' loss to future conference champion West Virginia.
Colorado drops a heartbreaker in the Big 12 tournament semifinals against West Virginia. 48-47 was the final score. Colorado had a chance to win it late. They had a set play to Jade Masagallo, but Jordan Harrison, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, came up with a steal in the perfect moment, in the perfect time for the Mountaineers. They booked their ticket to the Big 12 championship tomorrow. Desiree Rowan finished with 14, Zion Walker with 16 for the Buffaloes, and Harrison with 15 for the Mountaineers. It was a kind of slugfest through a majority of the game between the two teams, the lowest scoring first half in Big 12 semifinals history. But Colorado got out to a big run to start the fourth quarter and through the late stages of the third quarter to kind of crawl back when West Virginia went on a run of their own. Got down late, but again, the Buffaloes just couldn't quite pull out the run, just inches away from making the Big 12 tournament championship. From the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri, this has been coverage for ScoBuff Sports. I'm Jake Chow.
Thanks, Jake.
In the Big
Postseason
12
now awaits Buffaloes, who are eagerly waiting for Selection Sunday. Currently, JR's squad is in the last four byes category of ESPN's bracketology and should make the NCAA tournament. They locked in their March Madness chances during the quarterfinals upset over the Baylor Bears and are now looking to avoid the first four play-in. Currently, the Buffaloes are on 46th in net rankings. Let's go to Jake and Nick with more on Selection Sunday.
I'm Liam Howard with ScoBuff Sports alongside Matt Spivak, and we are here at the T-Mobile Center where the Colorado Buffaloes just lost their first round matchup to the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the Big 12 tournament. And man, it was just a disappointing night from the Buffs, a long night from the Buffs after they led by as much as 9 in the first half, and ultimately a lackluster end to the first half and then a lackluster entirety of the second half. And the Buffaloes are going home in the first round for the first time in Tad Boyle's tenure with the Buffaloes. So, Matt, I'll just start with this. What are your initial reactions to this game?
Yeah, in the first half, it kind of looked like it was a back-and-forth game. You know, CU had an early, I think it was an 11-0 run to go up 9 points. They were looking pretty strong at that point. We're shooting the three ball well, started 5 for 10 from deep in the game. But then, as you mentioned, not a great end to that first half. And then the start to the second half seemed really lethargic by the Buffs. Oklahoma State was able to get out and jump to a pretty big run. I think it was somewhere between like a 16-4 run, something like that to start the second half, and they kind of just cruised on from there.
Yeah, I got to be honest. My initial reaction to this one is just disappointing. I think that, especially when you look at how the field was laid out for the Buffaloes, they are playing a Oklahoma State team in the first round that is a team that they've beaten already. Then they would go on to play a TCU team that they already beat as well. And then after that, they'd be facing Kansas, which is a team that they took down to the wire, and Kansas just narrowly escaped them and arguably shouldn't have with some of the calls that were made in that game. So it was a really winnable path there for the Buffaloes. There was a lot of pieces that seemed to be lining up, and then this game just completely fell apart, and all those hopes are kind of shattered at this point. So lots to be disappointed about, unfortunately, for the Buffaloes. But if there's one thing you could focus in on specifically, what was the most disappointing part of this game to you?
Yeah, I think it was definitely the defense. In that first matchup against Oklahoma State, the Buffaloes were able to hold guard Anthony Roy to just 6 points and 0 for 7 from 3. And tonight that was not the case. Although Roy did start a little slow, only scored 7 points in that first half, he really picked it up, ended the game with 24 points, 2 of 5 from three-point range, and was really the key factor in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Their defensive Anthony Roy was lackluster, to say the least. And the Buffaloes threw a lot of different guys at him. They threw Barrington Hargress, Jalen Holland. They even brought in Felix Casares at one point to try and defend him. But the issue was they couldn't guard without fouling. He got to the free throw line a lot, made 10 free throws out of his 11. And the only free throw that he didn't make was the technical free throw that actually started the game before the opening tip-off. Still not clear what the reasoning was that there was a technical free throw before the game even started, but that will likely come out in the future. But yeah, ultimately just not able to guard him without fouling. He got to the free throw line a lot. And while he wasn't all that much better shooting the three ball, he did still make two three-pointers in this game and ultimately just salted away the Buffs as time went along. Overall, with this game and with Anthony Roy, what were you seeing with the defenses that the Buffaloes were throwing at him that was coming up short? And which guy were you the most disappointed in that matched up with him?
I would say I wasn't too disappointed at anybody specifically. I would kind of blame the whole team in general. I don't want to put that on one guy, but just the inability to get him off the line and force him into tough shots. He had a couple wide open 3-pointers. He give him some credit. He finished some tough layups that were contested, but for the majority, the Buffs weren't making it tough enough on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And it really was just nothing they threw at him worked, and it was ultimately to his credit what he put together tonight. One guy that did have a good performance for the Buffaloes was Bengot Dak. He had 22 points in the game. He had 8 rebounds. He had 3 blocks, I believe,
3 blocks
and then
2
2
steals.
steals. He had an incredible stat line for the Buffaloes tonight, and there was a lot of disappointment in his voice in the press conference post-game. He put up a great performance, but his team was not able to get the job done. But still, something that he can hang his hat on, and that his future is one of the ones that is up in the air a little bit with the Buffaloes, but if he does stick around, that's something that he could potentially build on going into next season that the Buffaloes could look forward to. But I know you want to talk about a guy who did not perform tonight.
Yeah, on the opposite side of that, someone who the Buffaloes kind of have been leaning on all season and definitely expected to show up tonight is freshman Isaiah Johnson. Obviously, in the pregame stand-up, we talked about him, becoming Colorado's leading freshman scorer of all time. That was not showcased tonight, at least not to the best of his abilities. He was quite inefficient. Let me get the stats right. He was 5 from 15 from the field, and a couple of those shots did come in garbage time. He really struggled from the 3-point line. I think he was 1 of 8, maybe 2 of 8, something like that. So Johnson just did not have the best performance tonight, but luckily he is a freshman. He does have, plenty of time to improve, and for the Buffalo's sake, hopefully, he stays in that black and gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaiah is a guy who Tad said in the post-game press conference, the sky is the limit for him, and the Buffaloes are really going to be focusing heavily on retaining him. Athletic Director Fernando Lovo was in attendance tonight, and he was in the press conference when Tad was talking about the future of this team and keeping them together. That is something that you saw what he put together at New Mexico in his time there with that basketball team and how that program was built up during his time. So it'll certainly be interesting to see what approach he takes towards this basketball team as well. But the Buffaloes' run is over in the first round, and now it is just the rest of the Big 12 tournament. It'll be interesting to see how Oklahoma State fares against TCU and down the rest of this tournament, but ultimately a stinker for the Buffaloes here in Kansas City. But I am Liam Howard of ScoBuff Sports, and for Matt, you heard it here first.
Welcome into Buff Banner. I'm Jake Chow here with Nick Rauscher. Today we're going to be discussing the women's basketball March Madness outlook. I know, Nick, the Buffs have kind of had an up and down season a little bit. What'd you see from the Buffs? What's your outlook?
Honestly, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. The Big 12 tournament was a real help to them. That Kansas win, they needed that. That was a must win. The Baylor win really, I think, solidified it. You look at their record, 22-11. Last year, they were not a 20-win team before. That's probably what kept them out. This year, they're 2 wins above 20 wins. I think that's got to get them in, especially in a power conference. They have 4 ranked wins. All of them were in the top 20. I just don't see how you could leave a team out who does that. The only thing that would really concern me is their quad 1 record. Whenever the Buffs seem to beat a ranked opponent, that team seems to drop out of the quadrant 1 section. So they're 2-5 in quadrant 1, but I've got to imagine just based on the wins that they've had, right? Like the TCU win, well, they made the championship game. That was a huge win. They were favorites against West Virginia. They obviously didn't win that, but I digress. Still a really big win. Texas Tech was a huge win. Baylor was a really big win on a neutral court, kind of proving that the Buffs can contend with ranked teams on a neutral court. So I think they should be good. It'll be interesting to see where they land on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the ranked wins, but also the losses that the Buffs have had this year. I mean, all of their quad 1 losses, as you said, and against ranked opponents have come within 2 possessions. So Colorado is right there with the best of the best, and they can compete, and they've shown all season that they can compete with every team on any given night. I mean, even look at that West Virginia loss that we talked about, you just mentioned. Yeah. 1 point.
1 point.
And they ended up winning the Big 12.
Right,
Colorado could
exactly.
absolutely be in that position and being cutting nets last week. So I feel good about Colorado's outlook. I absolutely think that with the right matchups, they're looking at about a 10 or 11 seed. I think if they're in that a 10 seed line, their matchup gets a little more tricky. But I digress. I do believe that depending on their matchups, they could absolutely make the Sweet 16.
Yeah, the ESPN right now has them as a 10 seed facing Washington, who is a 7 seed. I think the Buffs could win that. I think, the slump hurt losing the Utah and BYU, but they've shown that they can really contend with the best in the Big 12, and in turn, I think that means they could contend with the best in the nation. So I don't think Washington I'd be too concerned about. Now, the next game would be LSU and Baton Rouge. The Buffs have a history with LSU. 2 years ago, they beat number 1 LSU, ranked 20th in the country, to open the year. This team has awesome offense, as we've seen. Wooten's amazing. Masagayo's amazing. It's going to be that defense. I think, honestly, defensively against West Virginia, they played really well. They're going to need to be able to do that plus score against a team like LSU. Not impossible. I would definitely consider picking them as a team for the Sweet 16 for J.R. Payne's third Sweet 16 in the last 4 years. But it's not going to be like the last couple years when they were a 4 or 5 seed and we're playing 5 or 4 seeds.
Yeah, you mentioned JR. I mean, she is the epitome of experience when we talk about Colorado women's basketball. You mentioned 2 Sweet 16s in the last 3 years. She's looking to try to make it 4, make that second weekend. And I think that she can absolutely do it, and it's because of the way that she's built this squad. She mentions how much her team loves playing defense, held 5 separate teams this year to their season low scoring. And 9 different teams within 2 possessions of their 3 points, of their season low. That team is built to play defense. You mentioned Desiree Whitwin, who absolutely marches all about guard play. She is that guard to upshow the top of the top. She's there to strike them down because she can hit timely threes, as you mentioned, the timely shots. This team is built to play defense, and they have the level of talent that's necessary to power them to the second weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and it just comes down to in-the-game moments. I mean, the West Virginia game, for example, I mean, that was a 1-point game, and it was really the last play, how it was drawn up against the Defensive Player of the Year in West Virginia. Those are the moments that J.R. Payne is going to have that team ready for. They've got the talent, they've got the offense, they've got the defense. It just comes down to how are you going to react in a hostile environment against one of the top teams in the country.
Yep, and J.R. Payne has that experience. Her team's got to have it as well. For Nick Rauscher, Jake Chow, this has been Buff Banner this week. We'll send it to you guys back at the desk.
Thanks, Jake, Nick, Liam, and Matt. Colorado freshman guard Isaiah Johnson finished off an impressive first season in Boulder. Johnson was named Co-Big 12 Player of the Week and Co-Big 12 Newcomer of the Week after a big stretch against Utah and Arizona, where he averaged 25 points per game. In that game against the Wildcats, Johnson also made program history by breaking Alec Burke's Colorado freshman scoring record, which stood for over 15 years. The Los Angeles native finished with 540 points on the year, averaging 17 per game, and also earned honorable mention All Big 12 honors in his breakout season.
Now, it's time for this week's trivia question. With the Buffs falling 1 point shy of the Big 12 championship game against West Virginia, we're asking you, when was the last time Colorado played in a conference championship? And what was the result? We'll have that later for you in the show.
The number 14 lacrosse team suffered their second loss of the young season on Sunday, dropping a game to the number 8 Michigan Wolverines 7-8 in Ann Arbor. The Buffs had a 7-5 lead at one point in the game, but gave up 3 unanswered goals in the final quarter. The defense was a bright spot in the loss, with the Buffs setting season highs in almost every defensive stat, including forcing 23 turnovers. This is expected to be Colorado's final ranked matchup in non-conference play, having played top schools Stony Brook and Army West Point, along with the Wolverines.
To wrap up lacrosse conference play, the Buffs have a 2-game home series. First up, on Sunday, Colorado hosts Stetson University at noon. This will be only the third meeting between the schools, and fun fact, John B. Stetson, the university's namesake, invented the cowboy hat. The game will be streamed live on the ESPN+.
The second game of the home series will be against the Yukon Huskies, a team you probably don't want to play in any sport in March. Thankfully for these Buffs, they won't be playing Sarah Strong or AZ Fudd. The Husky lacrosse team is unranked, and CU should have no problems as they finish up non-conference games over the break. If you're on vacation this week, you can catch the game on ESPN+.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love wood when it comes to basketball courts. The Big 12 this year tried something else, and, it kind of failed in their face. Jake and Lila have the story.
We're here at the CU Rec Center. While there are no glass courts nearby, if you watch the Big 12 tournament, you might have noticed a bunch of players slipping.
It's very different. Personally, I don't like it. It was really slippery. But other than that, it's really cool.
I mean, it was cool. I think it's a cool idea. I will say it was a little slip in some areas, but I mean, you kind of got used to it.
At seemingly every break and play, there were several people out there mopping up the court for every slip and fall, more so than on an average hardwood game.
To end the half, Jane Wooten slips. That was a momentum play that could have gone our way that did not. It went the opposite way. Just those little things that take some time to adjust to.
I was sliding a little bit. It's really cool. It's really cool looking, but it definitely is a little bit of a different feel you kind of have to get used to. But I feel like second half kind of got more used to it. So
Even across 2 days in the men's tournament, the players have noted the surface change.
It's slippery. It's the lights and stuff cause Kamari to get a migraine, and yeah, it's a bad floor. They shouldn't bring it back. If you want my honest opinion.
Still, the ASB glass floor has received praise from players and coaches alike. And it marks a historic moment, as it's the first time the court has been utilized for official competition in the United States.
In pre-game introductions, the whole court being lit up in cool. BYU blue and their names being the whole court, I thought that was as cool as a thing I've seen as far as pre-game introductions.
it was just amazing to be a part of. Not everybody gets to play on glass courts, and just to be a part of that was an amazing experience.
While some players and coaches note the environment and the inviting graphics when players make threes, there is a noticeable difference in the surfaces. I'm here on this concrete hard floor, and I feel a lot more grounded than I did in Kansas City. I feel a lot more firm and sure about my step as I make my moves with this mini little basketball. And I'm sure for the players, that kind of got into their head as they thought about the immersive experience that the Big 12 offered this year.
It is different. I mean, it's cool that it's historic and we're the first to play on it. I think it made us a bit timid just being the first time, and it's a different feeling, and then we all have previous injuries that we're still working with, so it's kind of like you're in your head mentally about it because it's not the same as a regular court, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to compete out there.
Whether it's glass, hardwood, or concrete, the Big 12 has invested in this court as they pivot to the future.
The Big 12 is playing great basketball, right? But also it's added a lot more eyes to the Big 12, which is what we need. We need the rest of the country to see, man, they are really good. Like, the Big 12 is special. It's a different league.
It's like playing on a big iPad, so it's cool.
Welcome to Folsom Feud. I'm your host, Colby, here with 3 contestants today, Lincoln, Balin, and Kieran. Lincoln, start us off.
I'll take game day etiquette for 200.
All right. This is the best way to show respect during the CU fight song.
What is standing, singing loud, and raising your hand in the hook 'em horn sign?
Not what we're looking for. Balin, you have an answer?
What is stand up, sing loud, and do the Ralphie horns?
Correct. Balin, the board is yours.
Give me tailgate traditions for 400.
All right, here's the answer. The must-have item to wear on game day to show your buff pride. Kieran?
What is black and gold?
That's correct. Nothing says school spirit like those two colors. Choose the next one.
Let's do fan etiquette for 600.
Fan etiquette. The proper response when you hear someone yell, "Go Buffs."
What is Skull Buffs?
Skull Buffs is right. Looks like we've got some true Buffs fans here. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our contestants, and see you next time.
Thanks, Jake and Lila.
You're welcome.
Now, I'm going to toss it over to Liam and Oliver for a look at the semifinal round of the men's Big 12 tournament.
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Oliver Hayes alongside Scoba Sports' Liam Howard. We are here at the T-Mobile Center for the 4th day of the Big 12 Men's Basketball Championship Tournament. It is the semifinals round. Arizona is set to take on Iowa State in this first matchup of the day. And then for the second contest, it is going to be Houston versus Kansas, which should be, I think, will be more fun than this first one, just due to the Kansas crowd that should come out here to the T-Mobile Center here in Kansas City. But Liam, what are you expecting before we get into our predictions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just expecting a lot of hard-hitting basketball today. It's going to be physical basketball, tough basketball, and I think that this is a really fortunate position because these are the 4 best teams in this conference. They are establishing it, and it's almost like we're watching an early March Madness Final Four right now. This is a very exciting day of games.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic already, especially seeing the different talent, the talents that's been eliminated, whether it's Texas Tech or AJ Nabonsa for BYU, who has had a fantastic tournament before getting eliminated by Houston, who we'll see later on today. But one of the big things mentioning Texas Tech was Christian Anderson. He got hurt on the LED glass floor. Brett Yormark and the Big 12 decided to go to the wood floor that we're standing on now. What comments do you have to make, whether observations, standing on the wood floors versus the LED floor? What do you think about the decision to switch?
Well, I mean, we've only been on it for a few moments here, and the grip is certainly, it's much improved on this floor, I have to say. But it was just a very interesting way that all the events transpired yesterday. It begun with the Big 12 and Brett Yormark really reinforcing their idea of backing this LED floor and making sure that people were behind it. They're using player quotes and posting them on social media, trying to really beef up the emphasis on that they were planning on moving forward with the court and that the court didn't have problems. But then ultimately, a few hours later, they made the switch back to this floor, and it ultimately seemed like a supported decision by the players and media and coaches alike. And so now with this back in, I think it's going to be it's just going to be nice for players, especially to not have to worry, especially in the backcourts, about where they're going to plant their feet and potentially sliding out and causing turnovers, and especially in the worst case, causing injuries like what we saw to Christian Anderson.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's the right decision. You really just got to wonder about what had to happen before they finally pulled the trigger. Did it take certain players saying something? Because it wasn't like the women's players didn't have their comments after playing a whole tournament on it, and then seeing 12 full games of Big 12 men's basketball on the court as well. Then finally making the decision after Chris Anderson gets hurt. You have to wonder about what went into the decision fully to go from the new floor that had the innovation to the old school, I guess, at this point. But now looking forward to our games, giving some predictions. We saw Iowa State come out with a blowout yesterday. Arizona, maybe not as dominant as they would have hoped, but still took a win to advance to today. What did you see yesterday, and what do you think we'll see in this first contest?
Yeah, I think this first contest is going to be a much more interesting battle in the backcourt, like I was mentioning, with the floor not having to worry about necessarily all those turnovers and injuries potentially with the floor. I think it's a lot. I think even just the confidence that could bring could add a lot to this first opening matchup. I think that Braden Berries is going to be an incredibly key part in Arizona's performance today, and if he can get going and he can have a similar game to what he did yesterday and just what he's been doing all season long, I think that's going to be key to Arizona moving on to the next round.
Yeah, of course, in that backcourt, Jane Bradley, the Big 12 Player of the Year, alongside Braden Berries, excuse me. But then you have to look at Iowa State and Taman Lipsky, who had a great game yesterday on both sides of the floor, being a senior, a hometown guy for Iowa State and the Cyclones, and doing his thing. So it will definitely be interesting in that backcourt. Personally, I think the front court would be the bigger matchup with Mo Previs and Koa Pete for the Wildcats, matching up with Blake Buchanan and a likely All-American and Josh Jefferson. What do you have to think about that? And add your pick for this game as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pick Arizona with this. The question of, the experience can come up for Arizona, a very young team, but these guys are sort of beyond their years, I think. Especially when you look at a guy like Cole Pete, who's just an incredible athlete, and how he's going to match up with a guy like Joshua Jefferson, who is a senior
senior, has been doing this for a little bit longer. I think that is going to be something to watch in this game, certainly. But I do think that Arizona ultimately just has enough talent to overcome that. They're going to be moving on.
Yeah, I have to agree. Arizona, the top seed in this tournament. I have to go with them as well, especially with the front court matchup. I think Emma Graves and Kobe here are going to get it done. But, you know, we're hearing the calls again bouncing behind us. I think Worms are about to get going. So let's get into that second game between Houston and Kansas. I, of course, noted the home court advantage that I think Kansas will have here in Kansas City. But what matchups do you think will stand out, and give your pick as well for that game?
Yeah, I think the backcourts are obviously great for both of those teams, but I think the main thing to watch, I mentioned this yesterday, is going to be how those front courts perform. Today, I especially want to focus on their ability to play without fouling. Yesterday, we saw both Joseph Tugler and then, of course, Florey Badunga for Kansas getting into foul trouble, and that was a struggle for both of those teams. They're having to deal with that throughout the game. I think if they can play without fouling and they can play good defense without fouling, that's going to be key for both of those teams. It's really going to come down to which team can do that better.
Tugler was able to do a little bit better than Badunga down the stretch. He was able to manage things along with Houston and not give BYU as many fouls in that second half, which is why the Houston Cougars are able to pull off that win and advance to the semifinals. But I think it is time for Emmanuel Sharp, who didn't have a a good shooting game yesterday, and who hasn't really shot the ball too well, being under 40% from the field on the year, to finally have one of his best games outside. Because we've seen Kingston Flemings, we've seen Milos Uzan come up. I think that Emmanuel Sharp will be the guy to show up and potentially give Kansas a somewhat early exit after being here 2 days. They talked about wanting to play 3 games in 3 days yesterday, and with the hopes to do that. I think Emmanuel Sharp may come too much. Before we wrap up here on this third day.
Yeah, I suppose I should make an actual official pick for that last game. I think I'm going to send Houston to the next round. I think Houston is just the more complete team, top to bottom. That starting lineup may just be the best in the country, and I think that is going to push them to this next round, despite all the Kansas fans in attendance.
Yeah, well, I believe that is all. And it's not the third day, the fourth, excuse me. So exciting one that is going to unfold for us. 2 great games lined up with Arizona versus Iowa State, and then Houston versus Kansas in the second matchup of the day. Me and Liam are both excited to see how those games unfold. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow to be here for the championship and preview that one. But my name is Oliver Hayes alongside school bus Liam Howard. And as always,
Thank you, Liam and Oliver. Looks like you're having a bright time over there. 12 skiers qualified for the NCAA National Championship for skiing, enough to field a full 12-person team with 4 conference MVPs. On Wednesday, the Buffs had a great showing for the giant slalom event, where Louison Acambre placed second for the women. Feb Alesina was the standout for the men, placing second overall. On Thursday, the Buffs had 2 fourth-place finishes in the 7.5K Classic, Tilde Bangham for the women and Storm Peterson for the men. After today's slalom race, Acambre, Philippe Volkvist, and Alesina earned first-team All-American honors. Acambre placed third for the women, while Volkvist and Alesina tied for 5th. The national champion will be crowned on Saturday, with the Buffaloes looking for their 22nd championship title. Currently, they lead the Utes by 6.5 points going into tomorrow's 20K freestyle race. Coverage can be found on the NCAA website.
From one NCAA championship to the other, the track team is also competing for a title. The Indoor Track and Field Championship meet is happening today in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The 2-day event begins on Friday, and the indoor champion will be crowned Saturday afternoon. The men's mile competition begins today with 2 star runners, Justine Kipkochek and Isaiah Givens, representing the Buffs. Avery Pearson will compete in the women's 800 meter later today, and Kipkochek, Givens, Danny Trizar, and Drew Costello will finish the day in the distance relay. Coverage of the meet can be found on ESPN+.
The Buffs pulled off an impressive upset in the tennis world last week, taking down the number 26 Oklahoma State Cowboys 4-2. This was Oklahoma State's first conference loss and a good win for CU to have on the young season. For her impressive effort in the match, Anna Al-Said was named Big 12 Player of the Week. Colorado spiked to number 51 in the country, their highest ranking in 2 years. They are now 2-2 in conference play and are set to play UCF and Houston, home to 2 ranked doubles squads. Head coach Anthony Pham believes a good showing in Orlando will prove that they can compete with the best teams in the conference.
Speaking of balls, the men's golfers finished 7th out of 16th teams at the Lampkin San Diego Classic on Tuesday. Despite heading into the third round 7 strokes under par and with an opportunity to move up onto the leaderboard, Colorado shot 9 over in the final round. Graduate Jackson Riviera led the Buffs at the tournament. He was the only member of the quintet to finish under par. Colorado has a quick turnaround. The team will be back in the action in the Arizona Thunderbirds Intercollegiate on Monday.
The women's golf squad finished 9th out of 11 teams competing in the Game Above Invitational on Tuesday. The number 2 ranked USC Trojans won the tournament shooting 22 strokes under par. Colorado did not have a golfer finish under par, leaving the team's score at 38 strokes over. Junior Carolyn Fuller shot 1 stroke above par and finished 12th individually. No other Buff finished inside the top 35. Colorado has about 3 weeks to rest and prepare before heading to wine country for the Chevron Silverado Showdown, starting on April 6th in Napa, California. Bring me back some wine.
Well, if the weather's getting warmer, that means one thing: climate change. And the start of the CU's pastime, club baseball. The Buffs had their first home series of the spring last weekend against the University of Utah Utes. In the home opener on Saturday at Scott Carpenter Park, the Buffs had 8 runs on only 1 hit to beat the Utes 8-5. Sunday saw a doubleheader where both teams split, with CU winning the first game 5-1, while the Utes took the second game 9-6. After a 2-day break, the Buffs were back at it with a 2-game series against the Colorado School of Mines, or Diggers, on Wednesday and Thursday. The Buffs took the first game 7-3, but Mines came back and dominated the second game 11-3. Colorado's next series will be against the Metro State Roadrunners starting on March 20th.
Club men's and women's lacrosse had their own home openers last weekend at Kittredge Field. Both teams won, with the men defeating Arizona State in overtime 12-11 in a chilly snow game on Friday, and the women's team defeating rival Colorado State 12-7 for its first win of the season on Saturday. The men's team played a second game last weekend against the Boston College Eagles on Sunday and lost 12-7. They are now 2-4 on the season and will look to get back in the win column over break against the number 5 University of Florida Gators on Tuesday at 3. The 1-3 women's team takes a long break and will not play again until March 27th at 5 p.m. against Utah Valley at Kittredge Field.
Hey, Buff fans, I'm Kieran Walker, bringing you this week's top 5 plays in Colorado sports, hoops, and baseball were the story this week, and we're going to start with baseball. At number 5, we go to that series against the Utah Utes. This is Game 3. It's Tyler Gilmore batting it deep into left field, and that ball is gone! Ladies and gentlemen, a 3-run homer for Tyler Gilmore towards the end of Game 3, where the Utes were dominating. Colorado came very close to a comeback. Number 4, now let's go over to men's hoops against number 2, Arizona. Blocked by Barrington Hargress, ball loose in traffic, and it's handed out to Josiah Sanders. He's wide open with a man, and he goes in for the slam! Huge play for Josiah Sanders, and the CU Event Center roared back to life, ladies and gentlemen. Back to baseball for number 3. It's Nate Hoffman out in the outfield. This one's batted out for Utah. Nate Hoffman with a diving catch! The most athleticism ever exhibited in Colorado club sports. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, put that on Sports Center Top 5. Now for number 2, let's go over to women's hoops now. This game against the Baylor Bears in the Big 12 tournament. Look out, here comes Desiree Wooten charging down court. Backhand pass to Logan Greer, going in for the layup, and the one, ladies and gentlemen, right in traffic. What a play from the freshman off that pass from Desiree Wooten, doing what she does best. She's loose in traffic here, looking up, and she draws the foul and gets that open layup, ladies and gentlemen. Now for number 1, let's go over to that Kansas game. What? Maeve Mackerlane making a 3. Are you serious right now? From deep, she launches, and ladies and gentlemen, we have confirmation that that shot did, in fact, make it to the net. That's all I've got this week on Scobo Sports. I'm Kieran Walker, wishing you a wonderful spring break.
Here we see Xavier McNevitz working on his reader for the live show. If we didn't have these readers done by Thursday night, chances are we would not be airing this show right now. Be like Xavier. Get your readers done. And don't forget to click save so that you don't lose any of your hard-earned work.
Good afternoon, Buffs. I'm Kayla Muma, and here is this week's Rapid Fire. All day Saturday, the men's ski team will compete in the 20K freestyle race in the NCAA Skiing Championships at the Soldier Hollow Nordic Center in Midway, Utah. Follow along for updates at CU Buff Skiing on Instagram and X. Next up, track will hit the road for Fayetteville, Arkansas for the NCAA Indoor Championships for another all-day showdown. Check out at CU Buffs Track on social media for recent updates at their meet. Women's tennis hits the road on Sunday, facing the Houston Cougars at the Barbara Wallace Winston Tennis Facility at noon. Updates for this game can be found on X and Instagram at CU Buffs Tennis. To end the weekend, the women's lacrosse team is set to host the Stetson Hatters at home at the Ford Practice Facility and will honor mental health awareness. This game will also start at noon and can be streamed on ESPN+. Thank you guys for tuning in to Rapid Fire. I'm Kayla Muma and Sco Buffs.
Thank you, Kayla. It's now time for the answer to today's trivia question. If you're a big dum-dum and don't remember, we asked when was the last time Colorado women's basketball played in a conference championship game? And what was the result? Drum roll, please. 1997 and a Colorado win. Led by legendary coach Seal Berry, the Buffs took down Kansas for their first ever Big 12 title. CU never got past the semifinals in the Pac-12, and until last Saturday, haven't played in the Big 12 semis since 2003.
Our tweet of the week comes from former CU receiver Will Shepard, who caught one of the most random strays you'll ever see. After Miami Heat center Bam Adebayo made NBA history scoring 83 points, @LogicalFan24 had the illogical take that it made him think about how Shepard was a, quote, fraud. Shepard, now on the Green Bay Packers, quoted it with a viral 50-cent gif that we can't say live, but to paraphrase, what did he say F me for?
Now before we go, we'd like to shout out one of ScoBuff Sports' biggest fans, Sandy Simeon.
For all of us here at SBS, Sandy, we love you.
And Harrison, don't forget to do your chores this week.
You heard it here first.